Hey guys, Jordan here from VFX Vault again, and today we're going to be going over how we can create this pickup effect. So you can see here when we kill these creatures, they'll drop some orbs and we can walk up to the orbs and it gets pulled in to our character once we pass a certain distance close enough to the orbs. So we're going to go over how we can set up the particle system as well as how we can set up the verse that controls it, just a simple verse device. So, let's get into it. So just before we get started, if you're just looking to pick up the free assets in the free code, head along to vfx-vault.com. I'll leave a link in the description below. All you need to do is register and sign up, and you'll be able to download the assets for free and use them in your projects. Also, if you want to support the business and want to support the channel, consider purchasing some of the other assets that we have. If there are any assets you'd like to see added to the library, please let me know and I can see about adding them. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, and now on to the tutorial. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come into a new blank level and we're going to just drag in some of the stuff we need. So first we need a creature spawner because again we're going to be killing some creatures, so I'll put it over here. And we'll turn off the big creatures because they're a bit hard to kill. So we'll just spawn fiends, and we'll spawn 2 fiends, like such. And then we just need some weapons. So we'll go weapon, say like an assault rifle maybe, or whatever weapon you want to use, just so we can kill. The auto shotgun, just so that we can kill these creatures once we've spawned them in. Just move it up here. And we'll go 0 seconds here, 0 seconds here. So they spawn at the start of the game and they spawn again instantly. And perfect. Next we're going to make a new device. So we come over to our verse and we go verse explorer. And we right click at the top here and we go add new verse file. And then we just want to put in we'll call it creature death. We'll just call it creature death device. Cool. So this is very similar to a previous tutorial I did, like death effects. When a creature dies, it plays an effect, but we're going to do something that's a bit more involved. So first things first is we're going to create the device that spawns a prop when the creature dies. So save all of that, and we open up our verse. And here we are in verse. We come down to a creature death device, so we can get rid of this on begin. Cool. So first things first is we need to set up some tags, because we're going to be using tags to tag all of the creature spawners that we want. So we go creature spawner and we'll set it as a tag. Go tag. So that initializes our tag. Now we can use this on our creature spawners. Then we're just going to put a comment in here where we say our base orb. We're going to be going over how we can create an orb class object, and we spawn that in every time we want to spawn an orb, but that's next. And then on begin, we want to initialize creature spawners. So we want to access our creature spawners so that we know and we listen for when a creature dies from that spawner, we're going to spawn an orb. So there's a lot of different ways we can do this, but this is just the way that I've done it before, so it was nice and quick to do it again. So I'll quickly kind of go through this. So we need to make the new function init creature spawners, and we just returns nothing, returns void. And then spawners is find creative objects with tags. So we're going to search through all of the objects that we have that use a tag, that use this tag creature spawner, or creature spawner. Sorry, let me change that. And we're going to iterate through that. And we haven't used the class tag, so make sure we put that in. So we'll just copy it from here, and here we put it in class tag, and then we put all of those into an array. So it returns this I think it's a generator, not an array, but you can look into the docs for that if you like. So we want to iterate. So for each spawner in spawners. So for each spawner in spawners, if it is if spawner is a creature spawner device, so we go, sorry, creature spawner device, which is the device that we're using for this specific one. Again, this will have to be different if you're using it for different objects or different devices. Spawner. So, but if the spawner that we're checking is a creature spawner device, what we want to do is set up an event. So we go spawner.eliminated event.subscribe and then spawn death effect. So what's the error it's giving here? It says creature spawner device is ambiguous. Sorry, because it's where we're setting it here. So what we need to do is we're setting it twice, so it's ambiguous. It's declaring this twice. So what we need to do is we'll call this one just object, or we'll call it device. For all of the devices that we find, we check, is this device a creature spawner device? If so, we get the eliminated event, and then we spawn death effect. So let's do the spawn death effect function next. So we go spawn death effects now. So, and we want to pass in a death interaction. So we have this device AI interaction result, and we don't need to return anything. Then we go spawn, and then we go spawn creature death effects, and we pass in our death interaction. So what are we doing here? We are listening every time we spawn a creature from this spawner. We're listening to the eliminated event, and then we are calling the spawn death effects, and we're passing in the device interaction. So now see, when we pass in the device interaction, we get the source. So who initiated this event, like who killed this creature, and the target is the creature that actually died. So we need to make the next function, which is, because this is a concurrent function, we need to spawn it. We can also go spawn, we need to make this one suspends, right? Because we're spawning it. So we go spawn creature death effects. We'll just copy it from here. We'll go back. And again, we need to pass in death interaction and of type AI interaction result, and we can make it suspends because we want it async. We go void. Cool. So we go if maybe creature is equal to death interaction dot target. So we're checking if the dying target being passed in is actually a value. If it is, then we want to get the fort character so we can get the position. So we go get if dying creature, if dying creature is equal to maybe creature dot, maybe creature dot get fort character. So we're getting the fort character as well from the global, the array of characters. It's going to ask here to, if we're using get fort characters. So we've gotten so we're getting the agent, and then we're getting the character, and then we need to get the position. So we get effects, spawn position. We go dying creature. It's this one here. Dying creature dot get transform, and then we go get translation. So now we're getting the position of where our creature has just died, and if killing blow player is equal to death interaction dot source. So we're checking the optional, and we are grabbing the creature in its position, and then here killing blow player is we're grabbing the player who killed this creature, so that we know that that player is going to pick up this power up, right? And then we want to go new power up orb, and we'll go orb power up. So we haven't actually defined the orb power up just yet. So what we need to do is when our creature dies, we are spawning a creature death effect, and then we're getting the creature's position, and we're getting the killing player, and then we're going to pass that into a new class we're about to make, right? So we can make the power up as its own class. So that's what we're going to do next. So we can come up here, we go new file, and we'll call this one orb power up dot verse. So the orb power up is going to be its own class. It's not going to be a device. So we've got we're copying in just a bunch of the main files here, and then we'll make a new class, and we'll call it orb power up, and we'll make it a concrete class. So we go class concrete, and this is now our orb power up class. So we can make a class that's kind of self-contained and put a bunch of logic in here so it's not in the creature death device, and then we can spawn this orb in a bunch of other different contexts if we need to. Maybe we spawn it when we open a chest, or when something else happens in the game, not just when a creature dies. So you go at editable, so effect prop. So we're going to be using just a regular prop to spawn in our effect. So we go creative prop asset is equal to default creative prop asset, and then also we need the actual prop once it's spawned. We need to get a reference to the prop once it's spawned. So remember that creative prop asset here, this is before it's spawned, and then we just need a creative prop is once it's spawned, we're going to assign it to this creative prop. That's why we creative prop, that's why we set it as a variable, creative prop. Cool. So next we need to come down and do an initialize function. So on our initialize function, we need to pass in a base version of our orb. So we go base orb template, because we're going to use this base version from our creature death device to set the variables here in the orb that we spawned. So we go, this is an orb power up, and then owning player. So we want to get a reference to the player that is actually killed this creature so that they can pick it up. And then we want spawn position is vector 3, and again this is a async function, suspends and void. So we're getting the position at where it spawns, we're getting the player who this orb belongs to. Now again, if you want anyone to be able to pick up these power-ups, you'd have to do it a little bit differently, but I'm just keeping it simple for the sake of time. And then we go spawned prop is equal to, sorry. The next thing we do is we go set effect prop, so sorry, effect prop equal to base orb template dot effect prop. So what this does is when we initialize, when we're spawning this orb, we're passing in an effect prop that we're going to set in our spawned creature death device, and it's setting it, setting the prop to this, setting this variable to the prop that we're passing in the initialize function. And then we just need to go through and spawn the prop. So spawned prop equal to spawn prop effect prop spawn position and identity rotation. So it's giving us an error here. So it says oh yeah, sorry, because we want it as spawned prop, not spawn prop, spawned prop. And then we want to go if creative prop equal to spawned prop 0 and here, and then so we're getting, remember that spawn prop returns a tuple, so it returns the prop itself and was the spawning successful. So we need to get the value out of the tuple, so we're saying access the tuple, grab the 0th element, which is the prop itself, and then we need to set our spawned orb equal to our creative prop. So this way we're setting this variable to our spawned prop. That way we can access it later on in the script where we need to. So what we're going to do is we're going to go build verse code, and we'll come back to our main level here, and we will drag our creature death device out into the level, and we'll just place it over here. And again, build verse code, save selected, nothing's showing up on the side. So the other thing we need to do is come back into our creature death device, and we need to go at editable base orb template. So what we're going to do is when we put it on the device, now we can access the values that we set inside this instance of our power up orb, and then we can pass those on the initialize function. So we go orb power up, and again orb power up, and then we create a new instance of the orb power up down here, and we go new orb power up dot init, and we pass in what's it expecting. It's expecting our base template, so we paste in our base template. Oops, copy that in, and then next it's expecting the player and the spawn position. So we paste in the spawn position. So we go, sorry, spawn position. So you can see we're initializing our new power up and this new instance of our power up with the base orb template, the player, and the effects position, the position where we want to spawn our effect. So what we can do next is, once we come back into our game, we go verse and build verse code, and now you see on our device we have this effect prop, and at the moment it's just going to spawn this pink glow, but we don't want that. Let's just make a new blueprint class, call it a building prop, and we'll go BP orb pickup, And in the orb pickup, we're just going to add, on the static mesh component, we're just going to add a sphere. So we can see when it spawns, and we want to make sure as well, we come in and we turn off collision. We don't want any collision for this at all, because the collision can sometimes stop it from spawning. So make sure on all of these we turn off collision. Save that. And then we come back to our device and we plug it in. So I'm going to launch up the game now and test it out. Oh, actually, before I do that, there's one little thing I need to do that I always sometimes forget to do. So we need to come over to our creature spawner and we need to make sure that we're setting the tag. So we go tag, first tag markup, and we go creature spawner. So we can come over, select it. You can see in the creature spawner details, we come down and we have the verse tag markup, and it's using the creature spawner tag. So I'm going to save everything and I'm going to launch the game. So back in the game here, you can see it's working perfectly. We have set it up so that when we kill our creature, it's spawning a prop. Now we just have to make the VFX for it. Cool. So now that we've got the prop spawning set up, we're going to come back in and we're going to create the effects side. So we go new Niagara system and we'll just do a directional burst and we'll go NS Orbs. Call it NS Orbs, which is fine. Open it up and we can get rid of quite a few things. So we'll get rid of the velocity for now, the drag, the scale sprite size and speed, and the gravity force. And we're going to go shape location, and we're just going to spawn all of our particles in a sphere, and we're going to set the size to uniform here, a uniform size of 10, and we're going to set the alignment to automatic instead of velocity aligned. So I'm going to try to explain exactly what we're doing, and then I'm going to go through and build it. So what we need to do is we can check when our particle system has moved away from where it's spawned. Once our particle system, the actual object itself, not the particles, keep that in mind, the particles are separate. Once the particle system object has moved away from where it's spawned, we can activate this sort of pull to motion so that it pulls our particles in towards our player. We move it away when our player gets close enough. We move it away and lock it onto our player so that it's moved past this distance, and then once it's on our player, the particles know to move back towards our particle system. So if it's a bit confusing, don't worry, I'll go over it step by step, but we are going to start building it now. So the first thing we need to do is we need to go here on our system spawn. So we want to check, has our particle system moved away from its spawned location on our system. We don't want to check it on every particle because it's not as optimal. So we go new or existing parameter directly under the system spawn, and we go we go position, and we'll rename this one as spawn position. And in spawn position, we want to put in engine owner position. So remember, because it's in the system spawn, this value only gets set once when the system spawns, of course. So next, what we want to do is we go new or existing parameters directly, and we want to set a Boolean value. So we go bool. It's also a logic inverse, but we'll go bool, and we'll call this is system activated. And we will go set the bool by a float comparison with a little drop down here, set bool by float comparison. So we want to get the length, the vector length, and we go subtract, length. or sorry, distance between positions is what we actually wanted. So we're getting the distance between our engine owner position and our spawn position, so our initial spawn position. So when it spawns, obviously the length is going to be 0, or effectively near 0, and we want to set the B here to say 50. So once it moves, once we move our particle system away, it's going to be a distance greater than 50, of course, and it's going to know that, okay, this particle system has been moved, so it is activated now. So this Boolean is now activated. This logic is now true. So next, we want to come into our particle spawn and we go new or existing parameter, and we'll call this, we'll make a float, and we'll call this activation. Right? And we'll just leave it at 0 like that. And then we will go new or existing parameter directly in the particle update, and we will go activation. So we're going to reference our activation again. We're setting the initialize, we're initializing the value here, and then we're updating it here in the particle update. And we go add float, and we'll go make custom float from bool, and in this Boolean we're going to add we want the activation and the B, but yes, in this Boolean we're going to plug in our activation Boolean. So is system active, right? And if our system is active, it's going to be adding 1. If it's not active, it's going to be adding 0. So nothing's going to be happening, right? This activation value is going to be adding 1 to this activation value, or adding 0 to this activation value. But we don't want to add 1. We want to have a normalized range between 0 to 1 over maybe 1 second or 2 seconds. So what we can do is go random range float, and, or sorry, actually instead of random range float, we go multiply float, delta time, and we multiply our delta time by, say, 0.5 and 1.5. Okay, so what's this doing? This is taking, if our system is active, it's adding delta time times 0.5 or times 1.5. So it's adding how long does the frame take, just basically the game's time, to our activation parameter. So it's adding it to itself, so it's just adding up over time. We need it to go from 0 up to 1. And then we go new or existing parameter directly one more time, and we can go position. Now we want to get this one here, particles position, the position of our actual particles in the system. And we go lerp position from engine owner position, in the A, we want position, so we're accessing what position are they in now, and we want to lerp to engine owner position. So remember, we're going to be moving the engine owner position, or the actual particle system object itself, we're going to be moving it to the character, and we want to lerp it over time with our activation. So we want to clamp our activation so it doesn't go outside of 1, but it's probably fine because of the way the curve is, but that's okay, we'll clamp it anyway. We go activation. So now what's going to happen is once we activate, time is going to start counting up, and it's going to lerp between our position and our engine owner position. So we can save all of this. And also one other thing is we need to make sure that we set our loop duration inside of our system and inside of our emitter to maybe 10 seconds. Now this is going to be how long do you want it, as in do you want the orb to maybe last only 5 seconds or 10 seconds, and also we have to make sure we destroy the prop inside of verse, but we're going to set it to just 10 seconds for now. And then we set the particle life to 10 seconds, and we also come down and set the scale color to just slowly ramp down at the end. So they'll stay fully sort of opaque until they ramp down at the end here over the lifetime, over 10 seconds. Okay, so save that, and we select it in our outliner, and we add it to our particle system here, and we can get rid of this sphere because we don't need it anymore. So we save, and we save, but this isn't going to do anything yet, so don't jump the gun. We will plug in our orb. It's not always updating here properly in the content browser, but we've got our orb plugged in. So if we open it, you can see it's got our particles, it's got our orbs, and then inside our verse explorer again, what we need to do is we need to check for when has it been picked up. So at the moment, if we walk over it, nothing's going to happen. So now we're going to put in the logic for actually picking it up. So what we need to do is we need to spawn a function. When our orb spawns, we need to spawn a function, and we call this wait for pickup. And we'll go owning player. We need to pass in which player is waiting for the pickup. So we go wait for pickup, which is a so we're going to need to loop through and check how far away is the player from this pickup. So we go waiting player, and we'll pass this in as the agent, and we need this as an async function because we're going to do some loops. So go suspends void, and we want to do a bit of concurrency here. So we go race. So remember, race will cancel when one part finishes. It will cancel everything else, and we're going to do 2 blocks here. So we do these 2 blocks that will race at the same time. So block 1 and block 2, we want a loop in the first block, and we're going to go loop, and we sleep maybe just 0.1. So every 0.1 seconds we're going to check, is it within distance, and we want to check distance to player. So with the check distance to player, we're going to make a new function. So we go, just because it's a lot of code, a bit of code, so we go down to make a new function that that we need to pass in a point position as a vector 3. So we're checking the distance between this point and between our player, and we also want to pass in we also want to pass in our player. So player to check is a vector 3, and then this one here, sorry, also is a vector 3, and we want to return a float. So the float, the actual distance between these 2 points. So if our fort character is player to check dot get fort character, so we're getting that Fortnite character, the actual player that we're checking. So if that's true, then we get the character's position. So fort character dot get transform dot translation, and we return the float value that we're going to return is point to check minus character position, or character's position. We've got character position properly, character position dot length. So we're getting the length of this vector, and then we just need to return, if this fails, we'll return just 0. So again, point to check, sorry, we call this point to check, and character position, didn't spell right, there you go. So we're getting the length of how far away basically is our character from the power up, the pickup, right? So we check the distance of our spawned orb dot get transform dot translation and the waiting player dot get transform dot translation. Well, sorry, because we're passing in the player, so we don't need to get transform here. And then it says, yes, so instead of player to check vector 3, we want to pass in an agent. There you go. So every 0.1 seconds, we're going to check the distance to the player. So we're going to get this as a float value. And then if within distance is less than, say, 750, then we spawn another function on picked up waiting player. So now, once we've moved into that distance, once we moved into that range, 750 units, we activate the on picked up. So we've picked up this object, and then we also sleep for, say, 10 seconds. So sorry, the error that it was giving is we just need to put 0.0 here so that it's a float. Instead it was trying to read it as an integer. Okay, so now we have to create this function on picked up. So come down and we'll go on picked up. We get the player that it's picking up, so we go picking up player, and we'll go agent, and we want this as an async function as well because we're going to be spawning in a loop. And we go race and put in some blocks. So we go block sleep again, and then spawned orb dispose. So after 1 second, once it's been picked up, after 1 second it's going to be destroyed regardless. And then again we go another block and we go loop and sleep, and we'll just go 0.33. so it's checking this every, say, there you go, suspends. It's checking this every frame of our game, once, 30 times per second. We go if fort character. We can just copy this from the bottom, so we'll get the translation from here. So if fort character, so we're just getting the fort character that we're passing in as the picking up player. Get the characters, we don't want to get the position, we've got to get the characters transform. And then we want to go if dot spawned orb dot teleport to, and then we pass in teleport to pass in the characters transform. So what we're doing here on the on picked up, again, we're racing. So we're setting off these 2 blocks. If after 1 second, it's going to destroy the prop, and that's fine because all of these particles should be pulled to the prop in less than 1 second, the way we're setting it up. If you want to take longer for it to move to the character, then you're going to need to make it a bit longer. And then basically every time our game updates, we are moving the particle system object, not the particles, the particle system object on top of our player, so that the particles know to move towards the particle system object. And one last thing is, let's say here, when we spawn, we want to sleep for 10 seconds, and then go spawned orb dot dispose. So after 10 seconds, if the player doesn't pick it up, it's going to be destroyed anyway. So we'll go verse and build verse code, and we need to push changes because we've updated a bunch of the actual objects themselves. So I'm going to just pause here and I'll resume once I've pushed the changes. So coming into our game here, we're going to pick up some weapons and let's kill some of these fiends. Awesome. So it's working kind of. You see they all kind of as one clump move towards our player, but we can give it a bit more visual interest. So we're going to jump back into the editor now and do that. Okay, so what we could do is let's make the orbs, say maybe this bright, maybe kind of a bright blue, and we'll set the value up here to like 15, maybe 50, and we'll give them a random scale. So go random range float, 5, 15, or 10, 1. So some are small and some are big, that's fine. And then I think one little mistake that I made is here in the activation we want to go multiply float, delta time, and I think I did another multiply here where we wanted to go random range float 0.5 to 2.5, so some will get pulled in faster and some will get pulled in, so we could probably even go 0.25, so some take quite a while to get pulled in. We'll save that, and one last thing we can do is we can make them move around so they don't just spawn and kind of stay there. So we go add velocity, and it's going to give this error that it needs another module. So we go here in this one in the middle where it says fix issue, solve forces and velocity, and we'll go add velocity from point, and we'll go random range float, and we'll go say 50 to 500, and we'll just play, see what happens. So they're kind of shooting out when they spawn. We want to give them a bit of drag, and we'll go again random range float, and we'll go drag of 1 to say 5, so they shoot out and they kind of stop, and maybe a bit less velocity on the add, so go 50 to say 250, maybe even 150, so they shoot out, and we'll make the sphere a bit smaller actually. So it's kind of shooting out from a single point, sphere size of 10 and a velocity of 250, and then we can add just a little bit of noise, so we'll go curl noise force, and we'll set the curl noise up to say 500, and let's see what happens. So it shoots out, and then they kind of hover and just float around. So again, we'll save all of those, and because we're updating this we have to push changes again, so I'll come back once I've pushed those changes. So coming back into our game now, you can see as we move up to our objects they get picked up. So if we kill them when they're close enough they get picked up, but we can shoot them from a distance, and cool, you see they spawn, they kind of float around, we move towards them and they get picked up by our character. Cool, so I hope that was helpful. Thank you guys for watching. If you've got any questions, please feel free to leave them down below. Again, if you want to support the channel, please head along to vfx-vault.com and check out some of our assets. You can purchase some of our assets. Some of them are free. Again, you could use this orb asset that I've made, that you could do it the exact same way, and you could just move it towards the character and have it picked up. And there's a bunch of other assets on there that you can use that are all compatible in UE and UEFN. So if you want to support the channel, please consider purchasing something. Thank you again so much for watching. Please like and subscribe and share this around. And this has been Jordan from VFX Vault.